just going to tweet you guys out, okay? So we know what's going on here. Keep everybody in the loop. Y'all like Twitter? You can follow me at People's Rev. Join the revolution. Here we go. I'm going to tweet this right out. Is everybody else tweeting too or no? I'm 45. Just humor me for a minute. I only have about 30 more years of this before I'll probably give it up. My talk today is going to be probably different because I'm not a scientist. I barely graduated college. Hold on. But I'm an expert on Twitter, you see? You don't have to be smart to use social media. That's the good news. Here we are at... Okay, done. I've done my little PR part now for the event. My talk today is really about intuition and creating your own brand and entrepreneurialism. And it was titled originally Cash, Consciousness and Capitalism. But at the end of the day, I've been really thinking about what do I have to offer you that you haven't heard before, or that might be a good reminder as you go out in the world and you continue with your studies. And so I think it's fair to start to say that I grew up in a really, really small town to a very middle-class family in upstate New York, which looks a lot like the English countryside, except we don't have castles, we have trailers. And cow tipping is a favorite sport. That's what we do. Go roller skating and then go cow tipping. So that was, while other kids were playing rugby, I was cow tipping. And I never felt represented anywhere in my immediate surroundings. I felt loved at home and it was nice, but I didn't have any peers, and I never saw myself represented in my community. There was nothing that was happening outside of me where I said, oh, that's for me, that's where I belong. And when I was 16 years old, cable television, I know this is like the old days, we got cable TV, and there was something called MTV. And the first time I saw MTV, I was like, oh my God, that's where I have to go. And I quickly made a statement to my parents that I wanted to move to New York City. It was in the car. We were driving down the expressway. My father pulled over and told me to get out of the car. And he left me, which is child abuse now, in 2011. He left me on the side of the road and said, no child of mine is ever going to live in New York City. My mother was screaming, Lee, you can't leave her. He's like, we're driving away. And he left me on the side of the road. He came back about 10 minutes later and asked if I would make a deal with him that I would promise never to move to New York, and he'd let me back in the car. So I learned how to negotiate at a very early age, and I said, fine, and I will never move to New York City. And I got back in the car, and I got dinner, which is what you need when you're that age. So that was the first time that I ever really felt, like this is who I am and this is my tribe in my world. I also just want to put in here that I believe that we are tribal people and that we have genetic memory living in our DNA, and we're hungry for tribes. And I certainly was when I was younger. So I was going to be the first person to go to college in my family, and I wanted to become a poetry major and go surfing at the University of Oahu. That was kiboshed, and I ended up becoming a nursing major because that's what my mom wanted me to be. And, I talk about this because a lot of times, regardless of whether you have financial and economic privilege or not, a parent's influence on their kids and society's influence on us from a place of gender and expectation is so powerful. And what I found is that there are so many people that are living other people's dreams or demands. And I was one of those people. So I had to do the right thing. I had to be the one to go to college. And I was going to major in nursing because my mom said, if you ever get fired, you can always get another job. Like, this was the highest place of thought that from where they came from that they could offer to me. This was the top of their mountain. And I respect and love that. I don't feel like chipped off about it or anything. So my first week of nursing school, I had an asymmetrical kind of Adam Ant, like shaved head, with a Dorothy Hamill swing with a long braid. And I refused to wear the dresses, and I got these big white, wide gaucho pants and a little stethoscope, and I would pretend that I was a doctor and kind of walk around the campus. And their nursing instructors hated me, and they were like, we don't like punk rock kids in this school, and you're not going to make it through nursing school. And they just started to threaten me. So the first day I went to the hospital, you get to have patients, and they have a lot of things wrong with them. So My patient's name was Donald, and he was basically blind, had glaucoma, diabetes, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, heart failure, a catheter, a stoma bag, and basically was on his way out. And so when you're in nursing school, they give you people that have all these diseases so you can study how all the systems of anatomy and physiology and illness and treatment work together. So I walked into his room in my gauchos with my stethoscope, and I was supposed to take his vital signs, and he was like, and I was like, oh my God, like, I cannot help you. Like, I am not into sick people. This is not going to be for me. This is not my job. And so I just kind of like inched over to grab the clipboard, and I looked at him and I just made up his vital signs, which is why I really urge you guys, if you're sick, not to go to a hospital, because there are lots of jokers that work in hospitals and they don't do their job, especially a teaching hospital. Try never to go to one. So I just wrote down the vital signs, and I was like, 120/70, that's good. Paul's 62. And then all of a sudden I saw him doing this thing like, and I was like, oh my God, he's picking at air. And just like the week before in class, I had learned that right before people die, they do this inexplicable thing called picking at air, right? And I was like, oh my God, he's picking at air. So I ran to the nursing station and I said, excuse me, Donald is picking at air, room 436, like step it up. And he died. My patient died the first day of nursing school. And I took this as a sign, and I was correct to take it as a sign that I was not meant to be a nurse. So I was sure of it now. I mean, I knew it before, but it was absolutely confirmed. Like, my patient was nixed, and I went to the payphone because we didn't have cell phones then, and I called my mom and I started crying. I said, listen, I'm not cut out for this. I don't like sick people. My guy died, Mom. My patient's dead, okay? And my mom was like, now you're just going to have to pull yourself together because you're in a hospital. And guess what people do there, Kelly? They die. So I was like stuck in nursing school. So I quickly changed fields into psychiatric nursing, which I worked in an intensive care unit in a psych hospital, which became a great background to become an entrepreneur. Because when you weren't paying back the bank on time, you could use really good, psych terms like, I know you appear to be upset, but I just want to comfort you and let you know that we will be paying you shortly. So from there, I disengaged with expectation unknowingly, and I had no plans. And I was hired to become a nurse trainer for Nutrisystem. I was pretty skinny, I think borderline, maybe eating disorder. I was into being really thin. And, my clients lost more weight than any other clients in the history of Nutrisystem. So I found myself in New York City. And within 2 weeks, I basically was on the scene, hanging out with people like Tim Leary and Pink Floyd and I don't even know who. And I quit my job, and I had nowhere to go. And I soon got evicted, and I was rescued by a man by the name of Anthony Hayden Guest, who's quite a famous British journalist who was the art critic for Vanity Fair for years. And he said to me one day, darling, what are you going to do with your life? And I was like, well, I want to be an MTV VJ. And he was like, you're far too smart for that. You should be a publicist. So that started the journey of me going to get a job as an assistant in a PR company. And from there, I have to say that was the beginning of, a pretty amazing career. I was a music publicist for a long time. And then one day I just realized I do not work well with others. Like, I'm not employable in a corporate situation. I do not like to be told what to do. I do not like the fact that I could be sitting at my desk and somebody could just come up to me and tell me that I don't belong here anymore. So I realized from there I went and I met Bob Guccione Jr., who owned Spin Magazine. His dad was basically a pornographer who owns Penthouse. And he had started this rock magazine, and he hired me to come be the director of PR. And I thought that was going to be an amazing job, but I was the director of myself. There was no one else in the PR department. And we ended up having a fallout because we had a writer who had been part of the Tiananmen Square revolution back in the day, and our magazine was coming out 3 months late, and he wanted to be on every news source. So I quickly wrote him a press report and printed out 250 outlets and told him that they all declined coverage, and I was quitting and starting my own company. I was 22 then, and I went on to build one of the biggest public relations music companies. I did Frank Sinatra, Pet Shop Boys, Finding Cannibals, Tammy Wynette, Julio Iglesias. Going on tour with Frank Sinatra when you're 22 is really fun. I really recommend that if you guys ever get a chance. Steve and Edie and Frank rolling on a tour bus with like 10 lapdogs and the Mafia was quite a good time. So what happened is that by that point, I had believed everything that we were told, like, be hot, be pretty, be cool, be smart, go to the right school, get out, get a job, find a dude, lock it down, get married. I married Andy Warhol's protege, Ronnie Cutrone, very famous pop artist. And I thought that I was supposed to have it all. Like, I was supposed to have it all. Like, there it was. Like, I was in New York, I was in Vogue, blah, 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 blah. And I was miserably unhappy. Miserably unhappy. And the thing that I found that I was missing in all of this is that, one, I was doing what everybody else expected me to do. And two, I had no sense of faith. There was just no faith and no belief in anything greater than myself. And there was no connection at all to society and my community and any type of caring for anybody else other than calling Naomi Campbell up and finding out if we were going to go to an S&M club later at night after we hit the bars, which was also really fun back in New York in those days, you guys. And so what happened from there was I basically had a breakdown. I was making a ton of money and I was believing in all this stuff, and I didn't like my husband. I didn't like my life. So I got divorced and I moved to LA and I shaved my head and I sold everything that I owned. And I started studying Eastern philosophy, and I became a tarot card reader on Venice Beach. If you're an entrepreneur, it's like you can take the girl out of entrepreneurialism, but you can't take entrepreneurialism out of the girl. So what happened next was I became a really good tarot card reader. And at first I didn't have a car because I sold everything. I believed that things were really bogging me down and it was a big hassle. So I had 2 pairs of jeans, 2 tank tops, a pair of flip-flops, and a hoodie, and a shaved head. Later in the media, when Britney Spears would shave her head, people called me as, one of the top fashion people in the world and said, "What do you think about this horrible thing that she's done?" I said, "I think it's great, man. I did it when I was 24 or whatever. It's really good." You learn a lot about yourself when you shave your head as a woman. And so I just studied Eastern philosophy and became a tarot card reader. And I went from making like $100 to $200 a day on Venice Beach to really making, $800, $1,000 a day in cash just reading tarot cards. And one thing led to another, and next thing you knew, I was kind of a well-known tarot card reader. Sometimes when people talk about me now, and in one circle, they go, "You mean the tarot card reader?" And then my friends go, "She's not a tarot card reader," and then they find out that I was. So at that point, what I learned was I finally learned who I was through that period of time, and I think that the point of this whole conversation in this moment about the tarot card reading is that. A lot of religions talk about to thine own self be true, but who is the self, And I started tripping on these different concepts of the individual and the fingerprint and how, there's only one fingerprint or one retinal eye scan of each of us that exists in the whole world. And after doing all those studies and all of those journeys that I took, I found out that I really believe that that is a blueprint for the divine, that the divine has given us, wanting us to express it individually and uniquely, and that's why there's only one. Because otherwise, why wouldn't my daughter have the same one? Or why wouldn't I have the same one as something in my family? There's just one of those. And so I really started to learn at that point in time, really searching for this sense of what are we really doing here? What is this life about? And what do we go for and how do we use our time? And so it was through these type of things that I started to get a very deep relationship with myself. And that is the most important thing that I have ever done, more so than writing a New York Times bestseller or having a company that people perceive to be successful. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, and that's the truth. That's how it is when you're an entrepreneur. But the most important thing that I've done is I've become awakened to the divine being in myself and in the world. And one of the things that I really want to encourage you all to do, which has been very, very powerful. I work with a woman named Amma, and Jane Goodall calls her God's love in a human body. And she travels the world hugging people. She's hugged over 40 million people. She's an Indian guru teacher, and she's pretty awesome. She's coming to London, so you guys should all go see her, amma.org or embracingtheworld.org. And I was with her over the 4th of July, and some people said to her, I think it was a writer from the New Yorker, "Hey, Amma, what's up with the end of the world? What do you think's going to happen with the end of the world?" And she said, "What do you mean, what's going to happen? Take a look around. Look what's happening in the world today." She said, whether or not this planet continues is going to rest on the shoulders and in the hearts of humanity. And if you agree to have love and compassion in your heart, then the world will continue. But this is something that's becoming extinct. So we must keep love and compassion in our heart. So for me, I really, what I'm seeing as a 45-year-old woman who's been in business for a long time, I do not think that our politicians and I do not think that our clergy are doing a good job of keeping this world in a healthy, happy place. You know, we can't agree on human rights, so we shouldn't talk about God, right? So I think that the businesses and the way that we forge our businesses today, and I can tell you just as a money-making business model, I see it with brands like Warby Parker and Tom's, to have a charitable link with everything that you do, whether you can give up 5 hours of your time a week to go and do something. Just, I call myself Kelly from the Block, but I spell it the French way, like BLOQUE, so it's my fashion charity title. And whether or not, you know, we give our time or we give our money or we set up a business model where we can give back to our community or stop outsourcing everything globally and retrain the factory workers and the people who need jobs in our town. This is something that I urge you when you leave this really gorgeous, privileged place that you get to be in school at, that you consider doing, so we can have a place that's super cool and super happy and super healthy and full of abundance. Thank you.